went broke. Gambling problems, drugs, the business crashing out.
Chicago drill made King Yella rich almost overnight, but losing all that money took much longer. Now, for the first time, he's explaining how one mistake turned into another that drained his bank until there was nothing left. But the moment everything truly fell apart isn't the one most people think. Let me give you the full gist. Zero in the bank. Let me set the table for you before we get into the wreckage, because you cannot understand how far a man fell until you know how high he was standing in the first place. King Yella is not some new face who popped up last week, fishing for attention with a sad story. This is one of the earliest names in the whole Chicago drill wave, a dude who was making raw street music on YouTube back when most of the internet had never even heard the word drill. He was running around in the Flyboy gang circle, rubbing shoulders with the same crowd that helped birth a whole sound, and he dropped his first single around 2010. Before half of these young rappers today could even tie their own shoes. So understand who we are talking about. This is a real one, a pioneer, a man who was in the trenches with a camera before the cameras ever got popular. And that is exactly what makes this story so hard to sit through, because the same man who helped kick the door open for a whole generation of Chicago artists is now telling you with his own mouth that he is walking around with absolutely nothing. And I do not mean a little bit of nothing. I do not mean the regular "I'm going through a rough patch" that everybody says when the bills pile up. I'm talking about the kind of empty that echoes when you knock on it.
Everything gone. Ain't no money in the bank account. Zero.
Zero. Say that word slow with me. Zero. Not $500 he is trying to stretch to Friday. Not a savings account that took one bad hit. A big fat nothing sitting in the exact spot where all that money used to be. And when a man who used to be somebody says that number out loud, you can hear the whole weight of it in his voice. Now here's where the story stops being just sad and starts being a real lesson for every single person watching. Yella did not stand up there and blame the industry for this. He did not point his finger at some shady manager or a snake label or the streets robbing him blind while he slept. He looked dead in the mirror and pointed at the man staring back at him, and the very first thing he named was the habit that has swallowed more athletes and rappers than the feds and the OPS combined: gambling.
I got kicked out my crib, gambled the money, couldn't pay rent.
Read that back and let it sting a little bit. He gambled the rent money, not his fun money, not the extra stack he had lying around for a good time. The money that was supposed to keep a roof over his head is the exact money he carried into a casino and set on fire at the table. And it gets worse, because the way he tells it, he had already paid for a spot to live. Then somebody ran off with that cash, and instead of taking the loss and regrouping like a man with a clear head, he did the one thing an addiction always tells you to do. He tried to win it back. He chased it.
I paid for a crib, ran off with the money, I gambled the other money, lost.
Gone. All of it. And when a man cannot pay his rent in this economy, the landlord does not care one bit about your resume. They do not care that you helped build a whole genre of music. They do not care how many views your old videos got. They slap a notice on the door and they start the clock ticking. Yella got hit with a 7-day eviction notice and had to move in with his little brother, a grown man with a real name in this culture, now sleeping under somebody else's roof because his own roof got snatched right out from under him.
Gotta move in with my little brother. This is real. This year, man.
And I need you to catch how many times he says this year. That little phrase matters more than you think, because this is not some old story he is dusting off to squeeze sympathy out of the internet. This collapse is fresh. This is right now. This is happening in real time in the summer of 2026 while the comments roll in and the whole world watches a pioneer count his losses out loud. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, all right, he lost his rent. That is bad. But how does a whole grown man with a career go from something to nothing? What kind of numbers are we even talking about here? Well, Yella did not make you sit there and guess. He put the figure right on the table himself, and it is the kind of number that makes your stomach drop through the floor.
Just took 30, 40,000. I lose it gambling.
$30,000 to $40,000 lost gambling, gone, not invested into anything, not spent on something he can hold in his hand or show his kids, lost across a table chasing a feeling that never lasts longer than the next hand. Think about what that money is to a regular family. That is a down payment on a house. That is a fresh start. That is a year of breathing room. And it evaporated in the time it takes to lose a couple of hands at a table designed to beat you. And here's the thing about money like that. When it walks out the door, it never walks alone. It takes the whole lifestyle with it. Everything a man builds on top of quick money is the first thing to crumble the second that quick money dries up. And Yella watched his entire world get repossessed piece by piece, like a slow motion demolition. He was forced to stand there and witness.
My back against the wall, I lost everything. Lost my cars, lost houses, walking. Gotta call niggas for rides.
Picture that for a real second. A man who used to pull up, a man who used to be the one everybody else called when they needed a ride somewhere. Now he is the one standing on the curb, phone in his hand, waiting to see whose name he can even dial and whether they will bother to pick up. The car's gone, the house is gone, all of it reduced down to his own 2 feet and a phone that barely rings back. The door, the alcohol opened. Here is the thing about gambling that people always miss. A man in his full right mind does not throw $30,000 or $40,000 at a table and walk away smiling. So the real question was never why he gambled. The real question is what he was on when he made that decision. And the answer to that is where this story goes from bad to genuinely heartbreaking. Yella laid the entire chain out for us, and it is a chain that almost every single person watching has seen wreck somebody they love. It did not start with anything dramatic. It did not start with needles or back alleys. It started with a drink, the same way 1,000 other stories start.
And this spiraled down, you know what I'm saying? The alcohol, this shit opened up the door.
The alcohol opened the door. That is his phrase, and it is a perfect one. Because alcohol never introduces itself as the villain of the story. It never shows up wearing the mask. It shows up as the celebration. It shows up as the good time, the toast, the way you unwind after a long week. In his own mind, he was not spiraling into anything. He was just partying like everybody else around him.
In my mind, I'm like, shit, party drugs, this just to have fun.
Party drugs, just to have fun. That is the exact lie the open door whispers to you on the way in. And here's the trap. Once that door is open, whatever is standing on the other side of it gets to walk right through, invited or not. For Yella, what walked through next was something he never in his life thought would touch him.
I ain't drunk in like 2 weeks.
He said it out loud on camera, with no filter and no shame left to protect. The drinking turned into cocaine. And then, sit with this. Even that was not the bottom of the hole.
Popping pills, doing coke, like this shit been my life.
Like this been my life. Let that phrase land. This was not one wild weekend he is confessing to. This was not a phase he passed through and forgot. This had quietly become the routine, the everyday, the normal. And now go ahead and connect the dots with me, because this is exactly where the whole thing clicks together and starts to make painful sense. A man drinking heavy, doing cocaine, popping pills, and then walking into a casino in that exact condition. You already know how that math works out every time. Nobody on earth makes a smart, disciplined bet in that state. So he was not really gambling his money away. The habits were gambling it away, and they were just using his hands to do the dirty work. And the cruelest part of it all is that the very city he ran to for a fresh start is a city built from the ground up to take everything you have and hand you a smile while it does it. Yella left Chicago behind hoping for something better, but he landed in Las Vegas, and in his own earlier interviews, he talked about how the casinos out there treated him like royalty, and that royal treatment is a trap all by itself. Comps, free rooms, free drinks brought right to your seat. The house hands you all of that for one simple reason. They know it keeps you glued to the table. And the longer you sit at that table, the more you lose, no matter how big any single lucky night might feel while it is happening. That is the whole design of the place. They make you feel like a king while they slowly empty your pockets, and the crown they hand you is really just a leash. A man drinking free liquor at a free table in a free room is not a lucky man. He is a target the house is fattening up, and Yella walked straight into the middle of it, carrying an addiction in each hand. $10,000 in a single night back then, and nobody around him even blinked. That was the warning shot fired straight in the air. And if you want hard proof that this train had been barreling down the tracks for a long time before it ever crashed, you do not have to look very far, because there was a moment last year that should have woken every single person around him all the way up. Back in the summer of 2025, Yella was sitting for a long interview, sipping on Crown Royal the entire time, cup after cup, and by the end of it, his body simply gave out on him. He pounded his own chest and collapsed backward onto the floor, live on camera, a moment so alarming that outlets wrote it up as a genuine health scare, with reports even mentioning a doctor's warning about how hard he had been beating his body down. That was his own body screaming a warning, a full year before the money ever ran dry. The signs were there the whole time. We just kept calling it entertainment and kept it moving. Now stack one more thing on top of the gambling and the drinking and the drugs, and you finally get the full picture of where all that money actually went. The lifestyle, the endless need to look like he was winning even while he was quietly drowning in front of everybody.
I spent so much money on cars, clothes, jewelry, fucking it off, liquor, drugs, trying to be cool.
Trying to be cool. 3 little words that have emptied more bank accounts than any recession in history. And honestly, the most mature and self-aware thing he said in the entire confession was his read on the real difference between him and the people who actually managed to hold on to their money.
The rich don't do that, man. I done lost myself.
The rich do not do that. He finally understood the actual game right after it had already cleaned him all the way out. But even the cars and the jewelry are not the real tragedy of this. The real tragedy is that the entire time he was flashing and smiling and performing for the internet, the man living underneath all that shine was falling apart in complete silence.
I want to look good. I want the world to
See me smile the whole time I'm dying in the inside.
And he did not even try to let himself off the hook for it. He looked into that camera and admitted that everybody out here is running the same performance, and he was no better than anybody else doing it.
Everybody faking it, the whole world faking it.
So when the money finally dried all the way up and the mask fell off his face, he got his first clear look at the world without the filter on it. And the very first thing he noticed was who was still standing there in the room with him. Or, to say it more honestly, who was not.
I had to lose everything to open my eyes and know who loved me and who there for me.
Broke has a funny way of clearing out a crowded room in a hurry. That same crowd that fills up around you when the money is loud goes dead silent the second you cannot pick up the tab anymore. His woman, the one he calls Mama Lean, packed up and left him while all of this was crashing down around him, and by his own account, the home had gone cold and quiet long before she ever walked out that door. I failed my boy. Everything you just heard, the gambling, the drinking, the drugs, the empty account, all of that is the kind of thing a strong man can eventually rebuild from. Money comes and money goes, and a name like his can always find its way back to a check. But there is one loss buried in this story that no comeback can ever fully repair, and it is the exact reason Yella turned that camera on and bared his soul in the first place. To really understand why it hurt him so deep, you have to know what he was trying so hard to protect. His son was not some problem child running wild from day one. By his own father's account, this boy was the good one. The one he had real hope for. That right there was the entire point of Las Vegas.
No, he always a good kid, came out here to Vegas. I'm trying to save his life.
That was the whole plan. Yella pulled his boy out of Chicago on purpose, dragged him away from the blocks and the influences that eat young men alive out there, all because he hoped that a little distance would give his son a real clean shot at a normal life. And for a long stretch of time, it was actually working exactly like he planned.
But always been an honor roll student. Always passed his classes, always did good, never got suspended.
And then the way he tells it, the streets reached all the way across state lines and pulled his boy right back in.
Bloodhound Lil Jeff came out and my son up, man.
He named the influence he holds responsible, said his son went back to Chicago and eventually got kicked out of school after being the kid who never got suspended a day in his life. The straight A student was gone, and then came the phone call that no father anywhere is ever truly ready to answer.
Robberies. What? I ain't never saw my son do no shit like that.
His 18-year-old was locked up for robberies. Not one single mistake, multiple charges stacked on top of each other. And when Yella asked what it would even take to get his boy back home, the number that came back is the exact number that cracked this whole story wide open for the world to see.
Bond, $200K, $50,000 to walk. Man, I ain't even got $50 right now.
$50,000 just to walk him out the door, on a bond that reportedly started around $180,000 and climbed up to $200,000 after court. And this man does not have $50, not $50,000. That is the precise moment when the gambling and the drinking and the flashy spending stopped being only his own private problem. That is the moment every bad decision he ever made came home and landed directly on his child.
I feel like I failed my boy, man.
He said it over and over again, almost like he was trying to convince himself it somehow was not true. And the guilt that man was carrying was so specific, it hurts. It was not just that he could not post the bond. It was the deeper fear that his boy had spent years watching him struggle and had quietly learned all the wrong lessons from the man he looked up to most.
He just seeing his pop struggling, going through it.
That right there is the generational curse, boiled down into one single sentence. A son watching his father fight just to breathe and deciding somewhere deep in his young mind that this must simply be what the men in his family do. And Yella knows that pattern better than almost anybody alive because he lived the front half of it with his own two hands. This is a man who was raised mostly by his grandmother on the south side of Chicago, while his own young life was pure chaos from the very jump.
They locked me up for like robbery. I was like 10 years old.
10 years old, already getting arrested for robbery. And by the time he hit 15, he was locked up all over again for stealing a car with a pair of scissors. The gang life was not even really a choice. He sat down and made for himself. It was the air inside the house he grew up in.
No, I've been GD all my life. For real, for real.
At what age?
My daddy GD.
Oh, your dad was GD.
So I was like born GD already.
So when his own son ends up sitting in a cell for robbery, Yella is not just watching his kid go through it. He is watching his own entire childhood play back on a painful loop right in front of him. The exact nightmare he moved across the whole country to stop from ever happening. And that is exactly why his next decision shocked so many people who were watching. Because most fathers on this earth would sell every single thing they own to free their child from a cage. Yella looked at the camera and said, no.
I'm not in a position right now to go spend $50,000 to go get my son out.
And then he pushed it one step further, and this is the exact line that separates a man just venting his feelings from a man who has actually sat down and thought the whole thing through with a clear head.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't go get him I had it.
Now that sounds ice cold on the surface until you actually hear the reasoning behind it. He believes his son is facing charges serious enough that bailing him straight out only delays a lesson. The boy desperately needs to learn, and he would rather his son learn it right now than lose his whole life to the streets later on down the road.
Get him a lawyer, but you gotta learn from your mistakes. You gotta man up.
And I really need you to understand what this video actually was and what it absolutely was not, because the internet grabbed the broke angle and ran a mile with it while completely missing the whole beating heart of the thing. Yella was crystal clear that he was not out here begging his fans for bail money. He was simply letting go of a lifetime of pretending to be something he was not.
I'm tired of faking, portraying, putting on images of being somebody else.
That is a grown man deciding to be honest for the first time in a very long time. And real honesty, the raw and ugly kind, is almost always the exact place where a real comeback quietly begins. Because tucked inside all of this pain and all of this loss, Yella has already started rebuilding, and he is doing it the only way that ever actually lasts, from the inside all the way out.
I got baptized. Not this Sunday, but the Sunday before that.
He got himself baptized, he put the bottle all the way down. He picked up a completely new routine and started counting his days.
I'm 11 days sober. I'm 10 days in the gym.
11 days sober, 10 days straight in the gym. Those are small numbers, and he knows it, but they are the first honest numbers this man has counted for himself in years. And he flat out refuses to let this dark chapter be the final page of his book. At 36 years old, he is talking like a man who has been face down on the canvas before and knows the exact way back up to his feet.
I'm 36, man. Life ain't over, man.
He pointed straight at the names who lost it all in front of the entire world and still clawed their way back from nothing. From Mike Tyson to MC Hammer, who famously filed for bankruptcy back in the 90s and rebuilt himself anyway into something the world respects.
Mike Tyson went broke, MC Hammer went broke, Adrian Bruner went broke. These multi-millionaires.
And through every bit of it, broke or paid, up or down, he made one single thing perfectly clear about exactly who he is at his core.
But I'm still gonna be me, man. With $0, $1 million, I'm still gonna be King Yella.
So maybe that is the whole point of this painful story. King Yella did not lose everything because the world was secretly against him. He lost it chasing a version of cool that was never going to love him back. And it took hitting the cold, hard floor to finally see who was real and what actually mattered. As he put it himself in the video, the streets don't love you back. And when the smoke clears, all you have left is the family you neglected while you were chasing ghosts. His son is sitting in a cell right now learning that brutal lesson the hardest possible way. And his father, finally sober enough to feel the weight of it, is out here learning the very same lesson too, one honest and painful day at a time. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.